Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this occasion, I'm Riza Fahira Valenia. I will explain you about the research subject. Research subject in qualitative research. What are we going to discuss? There is four things that we'll discuss. First, definition of research subject, how to determine research subject, sampling technique, and last, example of research subject. First, the definition of research subject. The basic definition of the research subject is an individual or group that is used as a data source by the investigator or researcher. According to Amirin, the research subject is someone or something about whom he wants to obtain information. According to Suharsini Arikonto, it defines the research subject as object, things, or people where the data for the research variable is attached and that is at issue. So we can conclude that research subjects are individuals, are objects, are organisms that are used as sources of information needed in collecting research data. Okay, in qualitative research, respondent or research subject are referred to as informant. Informant is people provide information about the data the researcher wants in relation to the research that is being carried out. And then how to determine research subject? There is two kinds. The first way that must be done is to do a sampling technique. Sampling produces individuals or group of individuals who have the potential to participate in research. And then second, contacting subject. After the researcher obtains a list of potential people to be research subject, the researcher starts contacting the potential subject directly. And then we must remember that in qualitative research, the number of sample or subjects studied is not very influential. Why? In qualitative research, then the subject taken really focus on the problem we raise and we try to dig information from it in as deep and detailed as possible. And then some of the criteria that must be met by person or group of people to become subject in qualitative research by Sanapia Faisal. There is 5. Those who master or understand something, not only know but also live it. Those who are classified as still involved in activity paying researcher. Those who do not tend to convey the packaging information by themselves. Those who have sufficient time to be asked for information. And last, those who are initially classified as quite unfamiliar with the researchers, so that they will be more motivated to become researchers. Determination of the researcher subject can be done by population or sample. Population method is done when taking the researcher subject include the entire population. Meanwhile, the sampling method is taking researcher subject by using a portion of the existing population. And then several things must be taken into consideration before the research determines the size of the sample. First, you need analysis. It's a subject unit will be used as the research population or to be analyzed. For example, student, school, teacher, or employee. depending on who the data will be taken. And then approach our research model. To determine whether the research subject is population scale or sample, it must be seen the number of existing population as well as the type of research used. And then number of special characteristics of the population. The more characteristics there are in the population, the more subjects are needed as the research sample. This is because the more specific characteristic of population, the more heterogeneous of population. If the more heterogeneous, of course, the more subject will be used as sample in order to meet the representative criteria. And the last, researcher's limitation. To determine how many samples shall be taken, the researcher should also pay attention to the limitation. Sampling technique that can be used to draw research sample from the population. There is random sampling to provide the same opportunity or possibility for each individual in the population to be selected as sample. And then non-random sampling method in which not all individuals in the population are given the same opportunity to be selected as samples. Okay, in types of non-random sampling, there is several types. First, accidental sampling. In the sampling, the sample size is not determined in advance. To draw a sample, the researcher directly collects data from the sampling unit and counted. And then quota sampling, a sampling technique that doesn't take into account the number of the population but classifies the population into several groups and provides a certain quota for each group. And then proportional sampling. Proportional sampling was carried out in population that had different subpopulation. The researcher then gave a proportion to each subpopulation and drew a sample according to the proportion determined based on the large number of existing subpopulation. Double sampling. This sampling technique is used to avoid short take of questionnaires returned from a particular sampling unit. Sample area is a proportional sampling technique that is determined based on distribution area of the population under study. And then multiple sampling or compound sampling is a sampling technique similar to multiple sampling but with an expansion or an increase in the number of samples to more than 2 times. Snowball sampling. Snowball sampling is used if the researcher does not have information about members of the population. And the last, purposive sampling is also the aiming sampling technique. This technique carried out by determining special criteria or considering certain characteristics of the sample of research subject to be studied, especially people who are considered experts in their field. There is example about research subject. The purpose of this study was to determine and describe the result of the mathematical analysis of students in mathematics learning with a realistic mathematics approach. In class 9G, SMPN 29, Surabaya. The subject of congruence in the terms of student mathematical abilities with data in the form of qualitative data. Sampling in this study used purposive sampling technique. In this case, this was taken by 3 students from 38 students in class 9 each for the sample and used as research subject to determine the mathematics of students in learning mathematics with a realistic mathematics approach. Okay, that's all from me. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.